Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Robert Meyer Burnett.
Oh, my God. It's like old home week.
Jonathan Voico's here.
I don't know what old home week is, but LA strong.
And, of course, Chris Carr is here.
I'm so happy Rob's here.
Wow.
I'm so excited.
First time we've had both of you guys on at the same time in a while. Good to have you guys here. And most importantly, of course, though, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Listen, we got a whole bunch of stuff to get to, but I just want to let you know that in the second part of our show, we're going to be taking live comments and questions from you guys who are watching the show live. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, observation, or topic you'd like us to discuss, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link right there at www.streamelements.com/John Campea/tip. As long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed, we'll address in the second part of the show. And the good news is this tip link is actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be watching this show when we're not live later in the day, or if you're listening to our podcast feed, and you should be subscribed to our audio-only podcast feed, either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice, you can go ahead and send on in a question or topic too. We'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. That down, we got a full docket here today, so let's get things started with this. So the Acolyte was terrible.
What a bold statement, John,
I know,
right out the bat.
Hot take.
Whoa.
Hot take Monday. And it got canceled. But, you know, a lot of people, understandably so, thought it got canceled because it was terrible. You'd be forgiven if you believed that. Of course you would be. Turns out that's not why it was canceled. The other reason we kind of suspected why it got canceled is why it got canceled. The viewership data. This comes to us from Screen Rant, who's pointing out the Acolyte's cancellation explained by shocking new viewership data. So these numbers came out. Now, you guys remember, we've talked a lot on the show about how, you know, it's trajectory with a show, right? Like, do you have pretty much the same number of viewers? Does your viewership go up week over week like it did for Agatha and Skeleton Crew? Or does it go down? This chart kind of shows us that from episode 1, that was just under 2.5 million viewers, to the finale that had under 1 million viewers, the viewership of Acolyte dropped by more than half. And you can see now there was that one little bit in the middle. Remember, they had the one episode that was pretty good. They were like, oh, maybe this isn't going to be so bad. So it had a little bit of interest there, but then it fell right back down. At the end of the day, you know, somebody was asking me why I thought Skeleton Crew, I don't think it'll get renewed, but why I believe it has a chance at being renewed. Because remember, the only viewership data we had for it was its first week, and it wasn't strong. Nobody expected it to be. But the key was, from what we heard from the industry sources, was that every week their viewership was going up. See, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
The show could have been terrible, and it was, Acolyte. The show could have been terrible. If the viewership stayed steady, or if it had gone up out of morbid curiosity or what have you, guess what? They would have announced a green light for season 2. And I think that's why there is a chance Skeleton Crew gets a season 2, and why maybe they thought of Agatha as being a, you know, a standalone limited series. They changed it to season 1, maybe because of that viewership. Anyway, Rob, you see the viewership data for Acolyte. Any surprise there that people were bailing out on it?
No, I mean, the viewers have spoken. You know, I find it strange, John. Shows used to be made with an audience in mind. And I feel that these Star Wars shows, I mean, Skeleton Crew, actually, I finally finished it. It was fun.
I really like
You know, it was
Skeleton
fun.
Crew.
It was a fun show. And I'm like, it maybe because it was removed from the Skywalker saga, but the Acolyte, just from the time the opening scene to the end, I'm like, who is this for? Why am I supposed to watch this?
I mean, we were excited about it when we first heard about the whole concept of doing it from the perspective, which, by the way, they didn't deliver on, from the perspective of the dark side and stuff like that. So, I mean, Chris, I was one of the people who tapped out of the show.
I stuck it out.
Yeah, you did.
I'm committed.
So you were one of those under 1 million who were still there at the end.
Yeah.
Are you surprised by this? I mean, I'm not surprised the viewership were down. I'm a little surprised by how drastically it dropped from episode 1 to the finale. How do you see this?
I mean, genuinely, I figured the Manny Jacinto thirst traps would have spiked the viewership on certain episodes.
Darth Bay.
They were good.
Darth Bay.
Yeah.
Darth Bay was so great. His stuff was so great. He was so wonderful in the role. And once we let him actually do stuff and have amazing fight choreography and really dive into this, the show got potentially good of, can I just have this? Can I focus on this story? So much of what was happening in the show was just projected so early on too. Like the whole twist of things was, yeah, obviously this is what's going to happen. Oh my gosh. Star Wars, you should be able to suspend your disbelief, right? It was really hard with this show. It was really, really hard for me to do that. And I think that this goes back to kind of the problem that Marvel has had, Star Wars has a little bit of here of, hey, we don't need all these TV shows and things. We don't need a whole bunch of stuff. We want quality, not quantity. Now, to me, Skeleton Crew was that quality kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I loved it. They were short episodes. I wish they were longer, but I really loved living in that world. They had a great point of view. They had a story to tell. They had really engaging characters. This one felt like it was kind of a Mad Lib of Star Wars, and it just didn't deliver.
Yeah.
You know, they tried to make it a murder mystery, which, okay, all right, yeah, let's do that.
Right.
But it was, because, you know, listen, I'll give the devil his due. There were some things about the Acolyte I dug. I thought the action sequences were actually quite strong.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'll give them the flowers on that. I thought the action sequences are strong, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, when you make your show a murder mystery, and then when it comes down to it, turns out it was all a big misunderstanding. Like, I was expecting some deep laden, like, conspiracy. Nope. Turns out it was just like, we misunderstood each other.
Only Jedi's in the building.
And then it was also a
Well done.
deconstruction of the Jedi. You know, you're
Yeah.
supposed to doubt the Jedi, and it's like we thought it was really going to be an examination of the Sith.
Yes.
Like, what do the Sith want? What do they hope to achieve? If you take over the galaxy, does that mean you have to fix everyone's plumbing?
Well,
Like, what does that mean?
See, they could have gotten over it. Their PR department would have won big if they did that.
yeah, I would have too.
What about public education in the Star Wars universe? Do the Sith handle that too?
No.
Then why
It's
why
like-
take over?
No dumb Sith.
If you're going to explore the kind of moral ambiguity that comes with either side of the order, though, you have to do it at least as well as the video games. You
Yeah.
can't be worse than them.
Yes.
Acolyte
they've
staff that
delivered.
says who.
Yeah.
Because the video games have done such great exploration
Yeah.
of this. And again, I always like to say I'm not an extended universe person. I don't know the novels or the comics like to the extent that you guys do. But playing those games, it was, wow, what a really cool character-driven story that deals with the true duality of good and evil and the actual ambiguity of it. That's what I wanted here.
I think that's a problem with a lot of IPs too, is that we see in these extended, quote unquote, extended universe products, whether it's video games and novels, they're dealing with the core concepts way better than they are dealing with them in the programming that we're getting that's supposed to drive all the secondary market stuff. Problem.
Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, now we're getting a pretty good objective look at the viewership data of it. And it's just, as expected, the people just started giving up on it week after week after week after week. Still, even I'm surprised by how far it dropped. What do you guys think about that? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Sticking on the topic of Star Wars, which I don't think we can expect another movie for another 30 years. There was another movie they said they announced, right? Remember they were going to do the Rey movie? And when was it supposed to get a Christmas of 2026 release or a Christmas of 2025 release?
Something
and
like that.
Anyway, then they had to pull the thing. Well, they lost their writers as well. The writers are now gone. And then some people started to wonder if the whole Rey project was dead. Oh, it probably is, but not yet. Because according to the Hollywood Reporter, the Rey movie, now known as, I believe, the New Jedi Order, the New Order or something along those lines, now has a brand new writer, and actually not a bad one, in George Nolfi. The Hollywood Reporter writes this. George Nolfi, known for his screenplay work on movies such as The Bourne Ultimatum and Ocean's 12, has been tapped to write the New Jedi Order, the Daisy Ridley-centric Star Wars movie. The hiring signals continued faith in the project, which was announced to great fanfare almost 2 years ago. We're dealing with another Blade here almost. At Star Wars Celebration in London. But has been several high-profile writers fall into the trash compactor. Now, with George Nolfi, listen, I like this name, and here's why. He wrote The Banker, with Anthony Mackie and Nicholas Hoult and Samuel Jackson. This was a good little movie. It was a straight to streaming movie, but it was actually a good little movie. He did that little sci-fi thing, Spectral, which was all right. I never saw Allegiance, so I have no idea. He wrote the Adjustment Bureau.
I do too. I think he directed it too, didn't he?
He did. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I really like these.
He did a good job writing that.
Yeah.
He did Bourne Ultimatum, which I really like that. Ocean's 12, which is probably the weakest of the Ocean's movies, but I still liked it. So they've gotten a pretty good writer on board. Now, it doesn't solve the problem that none of these movies ever get made. Like they pointed out in the article, they announced this movie 2 years ago. They've already pulled one release date. They can't, again, Kathleen Kennedy doing Kathleen Kennedy things, announcing projects and setting things in motion when she doesn't even know if she's on the same page as the filmmakers and they're telling the story she wants them to tell or not. And so they make announcements and then everything gets pulled. So this isn't even going to happen. So this announcement is kind of pointless. But, Chris, in a fantasy world where this movie actually gets made,
suspend my disbelief.
I would actually say that bringing on somebody like Anolfi here increases my interest a little bit. I think it's a good pick, but I don't know. What do you make of this whole thing?
Well, first of all, Rob, you were right. He did direct the Adjustment Bureau as well as write it. I like this. There's going to be so much window jumping for Ray. That's what I think of every time I think about the Bourne movies, just jumping through windows. I love that for her. I think it's a good pick. And again, it's one of those things of if it happens, this should be a good match. But I just also don't believe it's going to happen. So neat if it does.
And throw another wrench into this, Rob. They have a director on board. But now they've thrown out the script. They're bringing in a completely new writer. Who's to say, and I was fine with the director they had, but who's to say that the director is even the right fit for whatever story they come up with now? So I'm foreseeing in the next 3 months an announcement saying New Jedi Order gets new director, something like that. Anyway, what do you think about in general, the pick of Nolfi to be the new screenwriter? And then beyond that, does this movie actually get made?
Well, I think that, look, I like the Adjustment Bureau. It's an interesting science fiction fantasy concept. I like the movie a lot. I think what he's done as a writer is pretty good. My whole question has been the same from the very beginning. I don't think you make a Rey movie work because there wasn't enough established in her journey to become a Jedi within the 3 sequel films that make you believe that she could found a new Jedi Order.
She's a Skywalker now.
Well, that's
so
the thing.
That fixes it.
It's a little. All of that's a little.
She changed her birth certificate.
I don't even know. Like her lineage, was she genetically created by Snoke to be a Palpatine?
Jedi nepotism.
Yeah, it's
so hard.
And you. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. I like Daisy Ridley as an actress, and I think lately she's been doing some really interesting stuff. I mean, her movies haven't gotten a lot of attention, but she's a good actress.
I agree. 100%. I agree.
I think that, like with so many of our fantasy IPs, the real problem is the storytelling. And I think Nolfi could probably come up with a great script, but there's a reason why writers have come and gone on this project. I think the premise is flawed.
But we don't know the premise, do we?
Well, if it's a new Jedi Order and she's the one founding it, I think that makes it. How do you write that story? Because you have to put her on a journey of some kind, but she was Superwoman. She was immediately able to fly the Millennium Falcon. She was a Superwoman from the beginning of Force Awakens. She didn't have a journey of her own.
I see. There's a couple of things they're going to do. Number one, they're saying this one will start 15 years after the events of the last movie, which is probably when it's actually going to come out anyway. So it's going to take place like 15 years after.
Accurate.
So a lot can happen in there. I've always rejected the notion that they made like Rey a superwoman, like right off the bat. Like she was somebody from birth who had to fight to survive. And remember, everybody forgets this. In her first encounter with Kylo Ren, she got her ass whooped. Like couldn't even put up a fight.
She
right?
did.
Like boom. And let's not forget, Luke, who'd never even heard of the Force before in the first thing, all of a sudden is firing, these torpedoes down a thing not much bigger than a Womp Rat back home, right? Down the thing and all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly he spends a long weekend with Yoda and he's having a lightsaber fight with Darth Vader.
My weekend at Yoda's.
There's that too. So there's something to be said about giving more credit to the Force being able to do what it wants to do. Now, the problem with Rey is the problem with the entire series. They never had a plan for her. I'm okay that we didn't see this long journey of hers. I'm okay because, you're going to say there's this 15-year long thing. She got away with the tomes, right? She got away with the Jedi books and texts. 15 years passed. All that kind of, it's no less believable than Luke trying to establish a new Jedi Order, I suppose. But the thing is, the entire saga had no path. Like, all of a sudden out of nowhere, which we now know for a fact was never J.J. Abrams' intention at first, all of a sudden she's Palpatine's granddaughter, and all of a sudden this happens, and then all of a sudden this happens, and it's like...
John, the scroll said somehow.
Yeah. Somehow.
They did a really good job explaining that.
That's how the opening crawl should start. Somehow Rey has established a new Jedi Order.
Speak, John.
The dead speak.
The dead speak.
The dead speak.
On the radio.
Oh my God, that's right. Hey, everybody. I'm back. It's so bad. Anyway, guys, question is for you.
Better than Section 31.
I've not forced myself to watch
Don't.
that. Whatever you guys think about this, look, what do you think? Put everything else aside. What do you think about the selection of the screenwriter? I actually think it's an interesting choice. Yeah. But will it make any difference? I don't believe anything will make a difference. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? One of the things a lot of us, including myself, are very, very excited about is Daredevil Born Again. Just in concept, the Daredevil is back, but I have loved the teaser footage we've seen, especially that scene just in the diner with Kingpin and Matt just sitting there. It's like the violence, loving and hating the control it has over us. Or a line I'm paraphrasing there.
It's Heat.
It is. It's a scene straight out of Heat. I'm so excited for this. We've also heard it's going to be very dark and all this kind of stuff. But now I'm a little bit worried. Here's why I'm worried. There's an interview that's just been done with the showrunner of Daredevil Born Again, and everybody's focusing on something exciting, he said, which is this is going to be darker than the original series. Ooh, everybody's excited about that. Okay. But within this interview, there's a little something that not only leaves me kind of concerned, it makes me wonder if this guy even understands what made Daredevil great in the first place. This comes to us from Games Radar, who wrote, Daredevil Born Again will fix the showrunner's big issue with the Netflix series. At its worst, it was two characters in a room talking about what a hero is. They write the article as this. There is more fun. Well, let me read the first part. Daredevil Born Again showrunner Dario Scardapani says the upcoming Marvel series will have some big differences from the original Netflix show, which is fine. There is more fun in the moments with these characters and a lot less nasal gazing than before. That's funny.
Navel gazing.
What did I say? Navel?
Nasal.
Did I say nasal?
Just looking at that nose.
Sorry about that.
Which
makes me think, when I look back at Daredevil on Netflix, I don't recall a lot of navel gazing. But anyway, than before. He says in the new issue of SFX magazine, which features Daredevil Born Again on the cover and hits newsstands on January 29th. Now, this is where he starts talking about it. The earlier show, the Netflix version, at its best was fantastic. At its worst, it was two characters in a room talking about what a hero is. I felt that had been done before. I'm not taking swipes. Yes, you are. I just didn't want to hear characters grousing about their lot in life. I wanted to see them doing things. All right. Now, you may accuse me, and you might be right. It might turn out that you're right if you accuse me of maybe nitpicking on words and being worried about semantics at all. But when I think back to the entire 3-season run of Daredevil on Netflix, you know what scene is always the first one that pops into my head? Punisher and Daredevil on that rooftop.
Yep.
That is Frank and Matt on the roof. That entire episode, that entire sequence of scenes, to me, with given the hallway fight and the brutality and the great action, that to me represented why that show was great. The conversations, even the philosophical ones that would take place between Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox, those are the scenes that I walked away going, oh my God. Is the action great? Yes, absolutely. Is the show as good without that action? No, it's not as good without the action. But it says something that when I think about the show, these are the first things that come to my head. And Rob, you know what I hear? He didn't say this. I'm putting words in his mouth. I admit it. But you know what I hear when I read these words? I hear a showrunner saying, I need to dumb this down. People want smack, pow, boom. They don't want philosophical discussions. Any kindergartner can say, have them fight. And it's hard to make the fight look good, granted, but any kindergartner can come out and say that. It's when you take that action and you soak it in drama and you soak it in meaning. That's why when you get to the climax and stuff like that, when Matt and Kingpin are actually fighting, it's not just a fight between two characters in a video game. It's like you've got all this dialogue and drama and tension and everything that's been built and chemistry built up between them. And I read this guy saying, it's just a bunch of navel gazing. I don't want to see these two guys talking about stuff. I want to see them doing stuff. Now, look, I am not saying I'm no longer excited about this show. I desperately am. I really, really am. But I'd be lying to you, Rob, if I didn't tell you I read this. And it's made me a little bit worried. I don't know. What did you take away from this?
Well, listening to that quote, ironically, look what they built the trailer around.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they built the trailer around a scene.
The heat scene.
Two people
if
talking
you were to
about
ask-
what a hero
See,
is.
I think that there's a pervasive attitude, especially with modern showrunners, when it comes to genre IP. They don't understand that we put as much, when we're listening to our superheroes and supervillains talk to one another, we put as much stock into their philosophical debates as anything else. Think about The Dark Knight. You live
Yes.
long enough to become the villain. That is a philosophical concept that is at the core of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. And that question, Harvey Dent becomes that question. Batman wondering is he going to become that question? And then the Joker always was a villain. So it's like there is a philosophy, and pick whatever, whether it's Kraven the Hunter. Why is Kraven the Hunter hunting Spider-Man in Kraven's Last Hunt? All of it's philosophical. I mean, they're always in these debates. And now I understand on TV, people want to see that action. But we as fans want both.
Yeah.
We want, because that's what gives those characters, that imbues them with meaning for us. If they're just going to beat each other up, well, that's a cartoon.
Chris, again, look, I'm admitting I might be reading too much into this
Sure.
and overreacting to it, but it sounds like he said it and then he doubled down on it, and it's left me thinking, do you even get what made Daredevil great in the first place? I don't know.
Yeah.
What did you take away from this?
I feel like it's mostly an unfortunate sound clip, honestly, of just I want to not trash this show, but I also want to hype up mine because everyone's already making comparisons and it's already it can't be as good
be
as
that.
that one, so let me do this. That all being said, from the comics, I know the comics are different than the movies and the shows, but from the comics, Daredevil has always been a wildly philosophical character, balancing his Catholic guilt with his shame for, one, doing what he does, and to a point enjoying it. We all forget some of the most important iconic lines about this character. The man without fear, Kingpin says, a man without hope is a man without fear. We have to discuss more of these things. In the Chip Zdarsky run, he talks about how Iron Man and Matt are having a conversation, and there's this great line of, you called me street level. I call it people level. It is a character study character. Like, it has to have conversations about what a hero is. That's his whole thrust.
And if you go back, I mean, I know it's not an exact adaptation of the Born Again storyline, but the whole thing about being born again is that he's torn down. That first episode when his brownstone collapses and in the wreckage, Matt Murdock finds his Daredevil outfit, and that's when he knows, he says, you shouldn't have signed it, because he knows that was Kingpin's coup de grace. So the whole thing is a philosophically based story.
Yeah.
And when you think about who the villain in this is, Muse, like Muse does in the comics, Muse does some really messed up stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also this rich conversation and dialogue and the whole philosophy behind why he does what he does. And I really hope this guy doesn't shortchange us on that just for the sake of throwing in an extra fight scene or two. because one of the great things about that Netflix series was the balance. It
Yeah.
always had these great character moments and then some wild action. Great character moments. Like that scene when Karen is sitting across from, I'm forgetting Kingpin's right-hand guy. Remember that scene? She's sitting across from him and she ends up shooting him to death. Like that whole conversation. Like, I don't rob us of that stuff either. Hopefully they can bring the
Wesley.
balance.
I think-
Wesley, yes.
I think just real quick, I think what this is calculated, and I think he's trying to hype the audience.
Yeah.
And honestly,
so.
kind of misstepped on his hype. He's like, oh crap, now I just made people worry.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is.
That's what I hope it is too. It seems that way.
But when he comes out and directly calls
I get it.
that show is navel gazing.
Yeah, I don't even really
And-
know what that is, but all right.
I'm not taking swipes. I just want to see my characters do things. It's like, Anyway, listen, I'm still excited for the show. I am, but I am a little bit nervous now. Question is for you guys. What did you make of the comments? Maybe it'll be much ado about nothing, and he really does strike the perfect balance, or maybe he's going to dumb it down a little bit. I mean, I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Speaking of projects, as we did a little bit earlier, that have been announced and we've been waiting years to find out anything about, there's that little Armor Wars project. Now, it's already gone through a major change. You guys remember they first announced Armor Wars, and it was going to be a series. And then came what I considered to be the good news, that they had changed their minds and they were going to make it into a movie, which was great. Unfortunately, then came Secret Invasion, which maybe be the reason why this entire thing has been thrown off and is now technically on hold. This comes from CBR, who write the following. Rumor, Armor Wars paused after Secret Invasion backlash, but it's not dead yet. It appears Armor Wars won't fire its way in front of cameras anytime soon. A new report reveals the maligned Marvel Cinematic Universe series that set up its events, Secret Invasion, has delayed the long gestating film. According to Hollywood scooper Daniel Richtman, who is quite often right, sometimes wrong, Armor Wars is on hold and not canceled, despite rumors suggesting otherwise. The insider claims one major reason for Armor Wars' delay is the negative backlash received by Secret Invasion, the lowest rated MCU Disney Plus show ever. Because of how poorly received Secret Invasion was by the critics and audiences, Armor Wars is being reworked with the story expected to focus on entirely different things now than originally planned. Now, I often won't quote the Twitter rumors that these things come from. However, in this one instance, I just by coincidence, I happen to know somebody who's a little bit connected to this thing. And I asked, is this true? And they said, yeah, pretty much what's out there right now is true. The project's been on hold. We don't know when it's going to get going. You guys might remember that some time ago, an interview was done with Don Cheadle about the project. And he basically said, this was, I think, just back in November or October. And he said, I have no idea what's going on with this thing. And now we know why. They made that really strange decision in Secret Invasion that, Rhodey was body snatched.
Roll the whole time.
Yeah, but they never really told us how long. Mm-hmm. Was he in there for a few days? Was he in there for years? All that kind of stuff. But it's just that everybody has rejected this thing. And by the way, Chris, I still don't believe we will ever see Kira again, nor should we.
No.
It seems like Secret Invasion really did derail Armor Wars, which is too bad because I thought the best setup for Armor Wars was the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When, what's the character's name? Sharon Carter?
Oh yes, the niece,
the niece or whatever. Mm-hmm. When she comes, it turns out she's the weapons. I can't remember the name they gave the character. She comes out of there and she's like making calls. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have access to this
power broker.
Power broker.
Yeah,
and it turns out she's a power broker. I'm gonna have access
So
to
like the deal maker.
That's your setup for Armor Wars, right? So, and listen, Don Cheadle is simply one of my favorite guys out there. So I'm kind of bummed to hear about this, but it tracks. Yeah. What do you think about this?
I gotta be completely honest, you guys. I forgot about this being a thing. Completely, just full stop. I was like, oh yeah, he was supposed to get his own. Oops. Oops. I did not particularly enjoy the twist, like so many other people, right, of him having been body snatched, especially with the kind of implication of him having got around the time of his injury. That really throws a kink into things. I feel like there's hope for restoring a great storyline here. You've got so much material. You have years and years of comics to work for. You've got so many writers at your disposal. I feel like you do just have to move away from that Skrull body snatching thing and try to find a way to almost retcon it or make it so it isn't he's been missing in action this whole time, because I feel like that's the disingenuous part of that character. Obviously it's actual treachery, but I feel like you can't have him lead a show and a bunch of his big iconic moments now were somebody else doing them.
Depending on how long they say he'd been in there.
I did like the idea of him not knowing that Tony was dead. I found that to be incredibly devastating.
Which gives you some hint about how long he's been in there. Yeah.
That I think is something interesting to explore, and I feel like that's intriguing. But if so many of his big heroic moments now were performed by the Skrull who was wearing his skin essentially, I feel like that's a weird jumping off point to have him have his own bit of the franchise.
Hey Rob, there's two different ways of looking at this. On the one hand, I think it's important, as the MCU I still feel is kind of struggling to find its identity right now post Endgame, and having one of the quasi OGs like Rhodey still around, I think is important. At the same time, everybody would love to just walk away and forget all about Secret Invasion and what happened there. I don't know. What's your takeaway from this story?
Well, I'd read early scripts for Secret Invasion, and it turned out to be that and Moon Knight turned out to be the most disappointing MCU shows for me. I was so angry with Secret Invasion when it was over. I'm like, it could have been great.
This is one of the situations where the script was better than the product they ended up making.
I don't, and like you said, I thought, the whole Rhodey situation, it was a mess to me. It could have been, it had a great sci-fi concept. I thought was irresistible, and I thought the execution was not good. So it doesn't surprise me. Here's my problem with Armor Wars. It seems small. Like, I know it comes out of the comics, but I mean, dealing with Stark tech as an idea could be interesting, but that should be like an ongoing runner through all the different kinds of Marvel shows, because, we've got all different kinds of technology. I guess Brave New World deals with adamantium. They're going to bring adamantium into the Marvel universe. And so without Tony Stark and Stark technology being such a big part of the world, I would think that they should make more of it. And Armor Wars, I mean, just starting like, there's a bunch of people that have Stark tech, let's have a war, or whatever they were going to do, seems, who cares?
Well, especially since it seems like the MCU is now saturated with Stark tech.
Right, it's
everybody has an Iron Man suit now.
Right.
Even the Dora Milaje have Iron Man suits now.
Yes, 100%. And I guess the Dora Milaje helped build Sam Wilson's new Captain America suit. That's all.
That's right. Yeah.
That's Wakandan tech too. Like, it's all weird. Like, I just don't think this makes for a really compelling story. I mean, why don't they give the Thunderbolts Stark tech? Everybody can have one. You get an Iron Man suit. You get an Iron Man suit. You get an Iron Man suit.
Yeah. Now they are saying in here that they've had to, because of the events of Secret Invasion. So the rumor goes that
because of the viewership of Secret Invasion.
Well, yeah. That they're going back and kind of redoing the whole idea about what the story of Armor Wars is. Look, I still think it's important to have a project focused around Rhodey.
Yes.
I think there's just too many benefits to that to give up on, but clearly they had to pivot. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? A bunch of you have been writing in the last number of months saying whatever happened to Armor Wars, now we might kind of know what it is. Apparently it's on hold, but not canceled. They're still going to try to take a go at it. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? So I watched a lot of football this weekend, and before the football started, somebody sent me a link to this new Superman spot. And sure enough, they played it a number of times during the footballs this weekend with the new Superman spot. Now, it was 95% the same footage we've seen before, with two notable differences. One was a shot of Lex. Not a lot to talk about here. walking off a plane and what I assume is him about to break into the Fortress of Solitude, I'm guessing, wearing his Oakleys or whatever it is those were he was wearing. Cool shot, not much to talk about there. But the key thing that everybody's talking about was our actual flight footage. 0.8 seconds of Superman flight footage and getting our first kind of peek at what he looks like flying through the air. Now, being as it was only like 1.2 seconds, it is kind of funny seeing the entire internet trying to base their opinion of an entire upcoming movie based on 1.2 seconds of something I saw.
That isn't finished.
Yeah. By the way, this isn't the first time we as movie fandom have done this.
No, you'd think we'd know better, John.
You'd think we would, but we don't.
We don't.
And we never will. So I got two thoughts about the Superman flight thing. One is positive. One is something I didn't like so much. Let me start with the thing that I thought was positive. The first part of the shot where the camera's behind him, this shot right here, and he's traveling at like Mach 1, and he hits that crevice and just does that quick as he's flying, like very Top Gun-ish, right? I thought that looked awesome for all half a second of it, but it looked awesome. And it gave me a great sense of the movement. You felt the speed. I mean, I was a little bit afraid we might get a Vespa gang thing. Remember, like they're racing through the streets and they're like going this fast in Book of Boba Fett. No, this guy felt full throttle. This guy felt like he was flying. The movement, it looked and felt awesome. Now, I think most people are in agreement that looked really good. Here's the part that gets people wondering. It's the shot right behind me. Or, yeah, I'll bring up the image here. This is the part that has some people talking. Now, let me tell you about the one thing that I think is stupid. People are talking about like his face, his eyes, and stuff like that. What does your face look like if you stick your head out the window just in a car going 70 miles an hour? You get
super attractive.
Yeah. Period.
Always.
It's like
No more
At every
discussion.
moment. Always stunning and gorgeous.
as you're getting hit
Don't
by
fact
everything.
check me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it looks perfectly good. Here's the thing I didn't love. And again, this is a fraction of a second shot. I acknowledge that. I didn't like the creative choice of this shot basically looks like a YouTuber who puts on a GoPro with the super wide angle. That's what
Yeah.
it is, with the super wide angle lens where you see everything moving except their face, right? And that's the creative choice they made for that shot. And there's two things I didn't like about it.
Like it's on a gimbal.
Yes, like so the face is perfectly centered, but everything.
Yeah.
So there's two things about the shot that I don't like. Number one is the perspective. I just don't like the perspective of. I like to feel like the camera is there and independent of the guy. Instead, in this shot, it felt like the camera was like a YouTuber. It was directly connected to his head.
Yes.
And everything else is moving except him, right? And I just didn't like that creative choice. That's all. I just don't like the creative choice. Here's the second thing, though. Quite often when you get those GoPros mounted on a YouTuber's face that has the super, super wide angle lens, it makes the face look a little weird. It can make the eyes look like they're going a little bit in different directions.
So like in
when they're not.
Severance when he goes down the elevator.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly it, right? And it just it was a weird juxtaposition of that first shot from behind that felt kinetic and felt like there was movement and power to this kind of an awkward shot where, yes, he's got Mach 1 air pressure blowing in his face, but it's also that weird, his head looks a little bit disproportionate from his body because of the camera angle. And I get it, that's the way the kiddies shoot their videos now, but I didn't like that creative choice. Has no impact on how good or bad the movie's going to be. That's just the one thing from this 1.2 seconds of footage that kind of sat a little odd with me, Chris. I mean, that's all. I just didn't like that choice. I wish it was an independent camera like the shot before it was, a little bit further back, and it felt like the camera was its own thing. So all of Superman, including his face, was moving a little bit in the frame. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't know, but you saw the footage. What did you think about it?
I just thought his face was so strong the wind couldn't move it. He's a strong man. Got those face muscles just locked in.
I actually am okay with that because
Yeah.
he's tricky. A bullet could hit his face and it'd be
Exactly,
fine. So I
yeah.
don't think
He's a strong boy. Wind's not going to move him. It's fine.
he moves the wind.
Yeah.
He moves the wind.
That's all.
He's like the wind.
All wind is just Superman farts. That's all it is. Just
That's the whole premise of the
You
DCU
know, in the
now.
DP world, it's all his fart.
Whenever there's a wind, someone's like, whoa,
Yep.
Superman.
it's a
That's all it is.
Superman fart effect.
yeah.
Rob, what did you think of what we saw?
Well, I kind of feel exactly the same way as you do. I think look, I was inundated by people, the comparison between every other Superman, especially Henry Cavill, and this. I'm like, guys, I get it. But from my frustration is that let's wait and see the movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My thing about this shot is there's no emotion in his face either. We should have had some interactivity because just the flying that fast, your skin is going to ripple. There's going to be some movement.
When you see around, especially around his cheeks, you do see a little bit of that,
A little
of the
bit.
distortion in his cheek.
But also, if
Yeah.
you're in the
You gotta lift.
Arctic or something, it just. But look at this. Look at his mouth. I'm not saying you should open his mouth because he might get an Arctic bug in it or whatever. But it just. Is there joy? Is he having fun? Is he upset? Is he flying someplace?
Well, we don't know the
There's-
context of the
I
film,
think he
right?
looks determined.
Yeah, he looks focused.
See, it looks to me a little like I want a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. This looks a little neutral. And I understand why people are look, this movie is going to have to overcome. I still have all the faith in the world that this movie is going to be delightful. I think it's going to be an epic superhero fantasy romp. I really do. I really think it's going to be a great film. I don't think that they're doing such a great job convincing the rest of the world of this in terms of what they're releasing.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, when you looked at IMDb and Fandango, both put out their polls, and both of them showed that after the trailer came out,
Yeah, it's true.
Superman is now the #1 most anticipated movie of the year. So it must be moving the needle for some
Yes,
people.
I guess I should say within our little small circle of film fans.
Right.
Within the imagination connoisseur sphere that I inhabit, that we all inhabit, which admittedly is very small. The rest of the universe is like, great, Superman movie's coming, they're excited. But
Well,
man,
This is also a very.
I'm all in on this. I hope it's good because otherwise I'm going to lose everything.
By the way, I still believe there is I'm going to say a 25% chance. I believe there's a 25% chance they are straight up going to show us this movie at CinemaCon because everything is riding on this
It
movie.
feels that way.
They're starting out the new DCU with it. They took Flash and showed it there. They're going to want to get people talking about this. I actually wrote to James Gunn and said, any chance you guys are actually going to show this there? No response, of course.
Yeah.
No response. But I think there's a chance.
Look, I think we all want this movie to be great.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
We don't-
There's certainly a small but
Well,
vocal group of people
yeah,
that do
yes.
not want this movie to be great.
Everyone
But
in
yes,
this
all of
room.
us in this room do.
Yeah.
Most sane, normal people want the movie to be good. Even people who are skeptical about it, sane, normal people who are skeptical about it still want it to be good. They may have their doubts if it's good, and that's perfectly fair. But I really like the shot. I just don't like that creative choice of using the YouTube selfie.
Yeah, and that's another thing you're fighting against. That's a perception a lot of people have because it does kind of look like a face was pasted on. Like I could put my face on that same shot and make it look good.
But whenever you do
Go,
something like
internet,
that,
go.
Hey, we'll start working on that
Yeah.
right now.
but like whenever you do that and you get one of those cameras rigged to you where it follows your face, that it always has
does
that
that
impact. It
distort.
always makes it feel like it's a fake face.
distorts
Well, because you
it.
have the proximity effect.
Yes, that's
which
it.
is an issue, and then the wider lens with the moving around it just distorts all of your features
Yeah.
because of how close it is.
And another problem too
Uh-oh.
is that it would have helped if like you see him go in and he kind of looks around when he's spinning around. If maybe he brought one of his hands up, it's the rest of him is very still, having some kind of more movement.
I do you still have the one you had a shot up there a little bit earlier, Jonathan? Yes, that's one. So that's one where you can see like the legs are moving a
Yeah.
bit. But I saw this entire online debate about arms out flight versus arms straight flight. And like people were on both sides were very passionate. Just like, is that what we're arguing about here? Again, it was like 1.2 seconds of footage. I do want to address one thing that I've seen some people in the live chat said, Superman's skin wouldn't react to the wind like ours would. I would counter that with two things. Number one, I don't know if you saw the picture from behind when he's flying, Jonathan. Yeah. Well, then that's saying that Superman's hair shouldn't blow in the wind. Yeah. And even Henry's hair blew in the wind, right? But also I want to point this out. Superman's skin on this straight on shot here is not reacting like our skin would. Our skin at Mach 1 or 2, exposed to the elements, would be ripping off the bone. His is just a little whatever, stuff like that. I just want to make sure that's
we come out looking like Fire Marshal Bill.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly how we would look if we stuck our head out the window of a plane going at Mach 1. It would be a little bit different. We'd be different. I want you to do the entire rest of the show in that voice.
All right.
That would be good. I mean, I don't know. I still have my doubts about how big this movie will be. Of course, I've never felt that it needs to be big. It needs to be good so that the other films can be big. Of course, they've just started shooting Supergirl, which is pretty exciting, especially now that we know Jason Momoa is officially Lobo and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. I also believe, listen, we're a couple of weeks away from Super Bowl now. I think we are getting a big ass trailer. I think we're going to get like a 3-minute trailer. Not on Super Bowl. Super Bowl, they'll show 30 seconds and say full trailer online now. But I think we're going to get a big trailer.
I also think the studio knows what they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they know.
Yeah.
Because so much is riding on this. If there was, I mean, they've tried to say that, there was that news that came out, that there was a test screening, and no. If there was a problem with this movie, then the town would know.
You know what's funny is you talk about this isn't even a finished shot. There's a strong possibility this particular shot is not even in the movie.
There is that possibility.
Yeah.
And they put this stuff out. It's not done yet. They'll finish it, but they also trickle this in to get fan reaction, and then they make adjustments. So it's fine.
This is their ugly Sonic.
They're like, we'll never get this done by July. Exactly.
Anyway, no matter how good the shot looks or how bad the shot looks, I think anybody trying to build a premise around that this movie is going to be good or bad, great or terrible, based on a 1.2 second shot, is a little bit crazy. But anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think of the flight footage? I think there was a lot to like about it. There was a creative choice in there that I didn't like. Other people have some real serious problems with it. How did you feel about it? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to get on to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second here and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Kikoff. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Kikoff. January always feels like recovery mode, doesn't it? I mean, after all the holiday fun and, let's be honest, all the holiday spending, it can feel like a credit hangover. But don't worry, I've got the perfect solution to help you bounce back in 2025. Kikoff, the #1 credit building app in the App Store. Kikoff is a total game changer if you're looking to start building or improving your credit. Their plans? They start at just $5 a month. No credit check, no hidden fees, and no interest. Everybody's been there, guys. Trying to navigate credit can feel like a maze, but Kikoff makes it easy. You can sign up in minutes on your phone and be instantly set up with a credit line designed specifically for building credit, not for spending. And here's a fun fact. If your credit's under 600, you could jump around 28 points in your first month. It's that simple. Shake off the credit hangover and look forward to brighter credit with Kikoff. Get your first month for just $1 at getkikoff.com/Campea today. That's getkikoff, KIKOFF.com/Campea. Must sign up via kikoff.com/Campea to activate offer. Offer applies to new customers first month only. Subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply. Points out based on Equifax VantageScore 3.0 changes for Kikoff users starting under 600 who made their first on-time payment between January 2021 and March 2024. Payment and credit activity outside of Kikoff can have an impact on your credit. Individual results may vary. And thank you to our friends at Kikoff for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, Let's get on to your comments and questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
We got Ken regarding Vision Pro conversation from Friday. Yes, luxury product you don't need, but I love movies on it. The cinematic experience is much better than any home theater and every movie theater experience. Downside is very isolating and can't share the experience.
See, I'm glad you threw in that last part because, like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, like, Anne is out, like my wife Anne she's heading out to Pittsburgh again this week for work and stuff like that. So I'll definitely sit at home and watch something alone sometimes. But like half of the experience of watching a movie is watching it with other people, whether that's in the movie theater, ideally, or at home. It's sharing that experience. It's laughing together and gasping together, looking at each other when something crazy happens. There's this whole thing about putting myself into a, what do you call those, like,
oh yeah, like an ISO chamber.
Like an ISO chamber, just floating in the water
Yeah.
and all that. And to watch a movie, like, yeah, it can look really good, but it doesn't sound great either. But the whole thing is you're taking away the social aspect of the experience. And that's why, to me, I've never really liked the concept of watching those things on my headsets. It's never been a good thing for me because I like watching it with people. That's half the experience. Anyway, what's next?
Dookie Shoe says, hey guys, do you think we're getting the first Fantastic Four trailer during the Super Bowl? That'd be 5 months in advance, maybe as teaser.
But, you know, here's the thing. I think 5 months, even under normal circumstances, is kind of, that's where the acceptable amount of time starts. But I've also been saying lately, I think there's also there's an exception for Super Bowl.
Yes.
That with Super Bowl, you can actually put out a trailer or something even a little bit further than 5 months out, right? So I would either guess that, yes, I think we're going to get our first teaser for Fantastic Four, though we're not hearing anything about it, either on the Super Bowl, or they don't actually buy time on the Super Bowl and they just drop it online during Super Bowl and let the word of mouth get out about it. But my guess, and it's just a guess, I don't know, my guess is we will get our first look at Fantastic Four during Super Bowl. All right, what's next?
Cody Hunt Film says, you know what sounds awesome? Imagine being a severed filmmaker. So like you work for Lumen.
Oh, yes.
You spend 6 months working on a film, and then when it premieres, you get to see it for the first time without any knowledge of the film. And you're like, holy smokes, I made that?
I love that. That's an awesome thing. It's like, I can't wait to see what I made. That's
like,
actually a pretty cool idea.
I feel like there's a strong chance Uwe Boll is severed whenever he makes a movie.
Yeah. Uwe Boll. You know, I actually sat down. I got to go and sit down with Uwe Boll for like an hour one time. It was one of the most interesting interviews and experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
But yeah, that actually sounds like a great idea. By the way, we're still only 2 episodes into Severance, right?
Correct. This week is 3.
Man, it's so good so far.
Yeah.
So good so far. All right, what's next?
Jake G says, do you think Avengers Doomsday and Mandalorian Grogu will both stick with their May date since they'll open so close to each other? Also, can we definitely see the first full trailer for Doomsday being attached to Avatar 3? That would be May. Well, that'd be 5 months.
Listen, first of all, gone are the days. We no longer live in an era where trailers get attached to movies, and that, like, it used to be that when is the so-and-so trailer coming? It's going to drop with this movie. That doesn't really happen anymore. They always drop online first.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for the odd Christopher Nolan film. Christopher Nolan's kind of old school. He still kind of likes his trailer to drop first
Where
in
it's like
theaters.
exclusive to that.
Yeah. But that's so rare. It's an outlier. Like, it's not even worth discussing. So, and yes, I do believe that both those movies will stick their May. Look, we are learning more and more that you can release these movies close to each other and they can both still do well. I mean, Moana and Wicked, even though they're both go after a similar demographic, I mean, Wicked just crossed $625 million at the box office. Moana is $1 billion film.
Oh, Wicked's over 7.
Is it over 700
Wicked
now?
is 717.
Really? Okay, so it's climbed up over 700 million.
Yeah.
I mean, and Moana is over $1 billion, and they released like 1 week after the other, didn't they?
Yeah, and these 2 movies that he's referencing are 3 weeks apart.
Yeah, so
I mean,
I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine. All right, what's next?
Dwarfer UK says, what's most likely, Tom Cruise doing a third Jack Reacher movie or him playing superior Iron Man in the MCU?
I don't think either have the remotest possibility.
I think Jack Reacher. That's
But
done.
I think if I had to pick one that has more of a chance, it's another Jack Reacher film. But let's, with the Jack Reacher we now have on television being such a massive hit, with a guy who is much physically bigger than Tom Cruise
yeah.
and much, much younger than Tom Cruise, I don't think Tom Cruise has any, especially after the reception of Jack Reacher 2, Never Stop, Never Stopping, or whatever. Never
like-
Go Back is what it was called.
But it's just like with the films that he's making, do you really think he wants to go do a Jack Reacher?
Yeah.
He's going to go shoot in space. Like, what
Yeah,
does he
he's
wanna
going to go
Jack
do
Reacher?
new stuff. And remember, like, I love Tom Cruise's first Jack Reacher movie. I loved it. The second one, not so much. And so do you think Tom Cruise, though, wants to go out and make a Jack Reacher right now while the Jack Reacher TV show is on and be physically compared to Alan Ritchson?
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't think Tom Cruise wants to do that either. So I think both have a 0% chance. But if you had to say which one was more likely, the Jack Reacher one is probably more likely, even though it's still practically zero. All right, what's next?
Nicholas says, longtime viewer, first time question. Is this the sorry, something caught in my throat there.
Smoking too much.
Yeah. Is this year the most anticipated year for movie TV shows coming out? I don't think I've ever been this excited for the list of movies and shows releasing this year. Thank you, John, and your crew.
I would say no. I mean, listen, there is a lot to be excited about this year that I am very, very stoked for. But is this like the top of the page for me? No, I think there have been a couple of other years that I've been a little bit more excited. Now, could this year turn out to be the best by the time we get to the end of it? It's possible. But listen, there's definitely a lot of stuff coming out that I'm excited about, both on the television screen and the movie screen. But I wouldn't say it's the most one for me.
It is perspective and on age. I'd say post-pandemic, it is probably one of the best.
You know what? Yeah, if you want to put that qualifier on it, I'll agree with you on that. Yeah, post-pandemic, so far, yes.
Kareem has a 5-parter. Hi, John and crew. Not a question, but a token of my appreciation. I've been subscribed since 2019 and love this channel. Even if I don't always agree with you guys and my fellow chat members, that's what makes us all human. Thank you all for what you do. For the film fan community, also, thanks to the chat for all the fun and cool discussions, minus the occasional trolls. Good health and wealth to the Campea crew, the chat, anyone else watching, and all our families, friends, and loved ones. And then he kind of breaks it down here. Movie and TV milestone anniversaries this month. This is going to make me feel old, but 5 years ago was Bad Boys for Life, Doolittle and the Gentleman, and the Owl House. 10 years ago was Agent Carter. 15 was Tooth Fairy.
Huh.
What a difference 15 years
Was it
makes.
Bad Boys for Life was 5 years ago?
Crazy, right?
That's not possible.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That feels like I blinked.
I know.
Okay, anyway, please
And
continue.
then, Spartacus 15 years ago. And Team Umizumi. Then we go 20 years. Coach Carter, Elektra, Are We There Yet? Zoe 101, American Dragon, and Jake Long. And then 25 years ago, this is a big one. Next Friday was 25 years ago. The Boondock Saints. Oh, I love that movie. And Malcolm in the Middle. What's crazy about that? Well, I'll read on. The Wayans Brothers was 30 years ago this week. Star Trek Voyager, the launches of these 3 channels. The History Channel, 30 years ago. That's 30. Wow. The WB UPN. And thank you so much for reading my long and random messages. This is my first time ever tipping. But it is cool to see, like, this week what happened, you know? I mean, I was thinking about that 25 year. I didn't realize he did a 30, but that means, like, if you watch something like when Malcolm in the Middle came out, 25 years from that was 1975. And we're that far from Malcolm in the Middle.
The weirdest one about that list, usually it's when you get into the 20, 25, 30 years, you go, oh my God.
It gets weird,
But
right?
the one that shocked me the most was
The Bad Boys.
Bad Boys for Life was 5 years ago. Yeah. Now, I understand part of that might feel that way because we just had another Bad Boys movie.
Yeah.
But still, I remember so clearly watching Bad Boys for Life. And it's like, wait, that was 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah, normally it's the longer out ones that
Yeah.
stun you, but this is the one that stuns me here. All right, what's next?
Casey Gavin says, as probably the only Chiefs fan watching right now, let's go. I do feel bad for Josh Allen and the Bills, though. Just can't get it done. All right, enough football. Back to movies. Go Chiefs.
Yeah, it's really hard to beat the Chiefs and the referees. Good God. I mean, that whole game, first of all, that one touchdown they got at the end of the first half shouldn't have counted. And then, of course, the big one, 4th and 1, the one referee on the field marked it as a first down. The replay showed he got it. The rules official in the commentary box said, yep, he got it. And then they come back and said, nope, they didn't get it. Chiefs ball, and they go down and score a touchdown. This whole playoffs is like, it's the Kansas City Chiefs and the referees versus everybody else. I like, it's stunning to me.
What's crazy to me is like you can have bad officiating in something like baseball, like calling balls strikes, but it affects both teams and you can adjust. I feel like football is the most sensitive to bad calls. Like it affects the game more than any other game.
It really, but especially when it's like it's 4th and 1, they get it. Ref on the field saw that they got it. Replay showed that they got it. The head of officiating guy in the booth said, yeah, they got it. And yet they said, nope, give the ball to Kansas. And it's like, what the hell are we doing? You know, it almost doesn't matter, though, because I was watching the game with my buddy Ryan, and I said to him before the game started, because I am a Bills fan, admittedly, because I grew up around Buffalo. But I said before the game even started, I said, you know what? I'm excited for this game, Kansas and Buffalo. But I said, it really almost doesn't matter because neither of these teams, and I say this as a Bills fan, I said, neither of these teams has a chance against the Eagles right now. Like neither the Bills or Kansas, their styles do not match up well with the bully ball that Philadelphia is playing. Philadelphia, I think, would have steamrolled Buffalo. They're going to steamroll Kansas City. I didn't think either of those teams has a chance against Philadelphia. The way they're playing right now, and they have played for the last couple of months, they're going to be very, very difficult to stop. Because here's the thing, Kansas City had a very, very hard time stopping Cook from running. What are you going to do when Saquon Barkley is running down your ass? It's so I don't think either Buffalo or Kansas City had a chance next week, but I certainly don't think Kansas has a chance. Unless, of course, their referees come along with them and get them the game.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, all right, what's next?
We got Guard Variety says, I only have a few days left to catch up on The Voice on Peacock, or the episodes will go away, so I checked other shows that I fell behind on and saw the older seasons are off the channel. I don't see how Peacock survives if you won't allow binging. They might be licensing those, but
there's probably licensing deals that are in place there that is really beyond their control at that point.
And
right?
something like The Voice has to be so expensive to maintain because you're paying for the rights to that music they use in The Voice.
The music that they get, and so like there's probably a lot of factors that go into it. But look, it comes down to with streaming. If there's a show you have or a movie that literally costs you more money to have on your network than it is just to remove it. If it costs you more money than it's making you, you got to take it down. But again, there could be other licensing issues and stuff like that too that we just don't know about. All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous 3Pete says, interesting how if the Philadelphia Eagles lose the Super Bowl, they will have an all-time record of 666 wins, 666 losses.
Interesting.
Former NBA coach Phil Jackson shares a September 17 birthday with Patrick Mahomes, and Phil Jackson three-peated with the Lakers and Kobe.
Interesting comparisons there. I like that. Yes, the Zen Master. The Zen Master, Phil Jackson. I always thought he was going to come back to the NBA. Obviously, he's not now at this stage, but I always, there was a couple of years I really thought he was going to come back again.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous just follows up, says Mahomes will most likely three-peat. Kobe is from Philly. Both the NFC AFC championship games were on January 26th, which was 5th death anniversary of Kobe. Crazy, that's 5 years ago. Who is 666 NBA career game was his all-time scoring game of 81 points. Obviously, Chiefs three-peat win to me.
Yeah, I honestly don't see the Chiefs even having a chance. I don't think Buffalo or the Chiefs had a chance. The style of play, it's not just that Philadelphia is that much better of a team. It's the style. Styles make fights, right? It's the style of the team. They are going to get bullied. And listen, Patrick Mahomes is not the same Patrick Mahomes that he's been in years past. He did not have anywhere near as good of a season this year. When you look at his stat line from the game, it was okay. It was okay. It really what's been carrying the Chiefs is their defense. They have a very impressive defense, but again, they're a little bit susceptible to the run. Cook was running over them for Buffalo. And if Cook was running over you, hey kids, Philadelphia had 6 rushing touchdowns yesterday. You ain't going to stop Saquon Barkley. And you don't say this about many teams. Philadelphia's defensive line is going to manhandle Kansas City's offensive line. You can't say that about a lot of teams, but they're just a bunch of bullies, man. And I don't even think the Super Bowl is going to be close. I don't even think it's going to be close. I think, and I don't think it would have been close against Buffalo either. I think they would have spanked Buffalo, but they'll spank Kansas City. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Lord Helmet. I think the quiet success Mufasa has had at the box office bodes well for the Snow White remake. Despite the online hate campaign, I can't see it losing money, especially with my young nieces and cousins all super excited to see it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Mufasa, again, a movie that only opened to like what? $30 million opening weekend?
35 opening.
35 million opening.
It's a 626 now.
It's over $625 million at the box office. It's already profitable. Now, the Snow White thing, I don't know. Now, listen, I don't care what anybody else says. I think the trailer to Snow White looks really good. That being said, you know what feeling I get when I watch the Snow White trailer? Snow White and the Huntsman vibes.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. So I'm very curious about this movie, and I hope it. Remember, everybody was saying, "Oh, Little Mermaid's going to flop." Little Mermaid made money.
A lot of money, yeah.
A lot of people said Mufasa's going to flop. Mufasa made money. Maybe the same is true of this Snow White. And again, I like the trailer very much. I think I actually really like the way they're rendering out the dwarves. I think it looks really cool. It looks like a fairy tale.
I'm just a little nervous about what's her name as the Wicked Witch.
Oh, you know, with Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
As the evil stepmother, I gotta say, this might be the movie that makes me go, she's turned a corner. I hope so. I hope so. But again, my one fear is that I watch it and I'm like, I'm getting Snow White and the Huntsman vibes. And so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how good it is.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
Save Legends of Tomorrow says, did you guys catch James Gunn's clarification, quote unquote, on what is and isn't canon in the DCU on Blue Sky? Basically, he said most of Peacemaker is, outside of that Justice League cameo at the end of it, which we pretty much knew. And some stuff in, I'm not sure what TSS could be.
The Suicide Squad.
Oh, the Suicide Squad. Could be canon, but it's an imperfect memory. Very confusing, no?
Nope. Because, listen, everybody's trying to make sense out of something when we haven't had one frame hit the movie screen yet.
Yeah.
Look, I've said the whole time, remember, go back to a year ago. I said you can easily bring Peacemaker into the new DCU because you only have to retcon one single scene.
Yeah.
And that was the scene that the Justice League shows up at the
even
end.
if they mention Superman or Batman, it doesn't matter because we don't know which version of those
yeah,
they were
you
talking
can mention
about.
exactly. So I've said for over a year that Peacemaker is the one thing you can easily just say, oh, this was always in this new DCU because you only had to retcon one single shot. You retcon that one single shot, which is, you know, the fuck you, Barry, which was a great scene.
Sure.
That was hilarious. But you just have to retcon that one thing and it will fit perfectly into the new DCU.
Yeah.
So it's really not a problem. Everybody's getting, listen, 95% of the movie-going audience is not reading what James Gunn is writing on Blue Sky. It's not confusing. It's really simple. You take that one scene out of Peacemaker and it fits right into a new cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Now, none of that says it's going to be good or bad. Maybe it'll be terrible. Who knows? But it's not confusing. Like, in the least, it's not confusing.
You know what's not confusing as well is how good Peacemaker was, and I was shocked. Oh, God. Because I was way late to the game. I just only recently watched it a couple months ago, and I'm like, this is amazing.
Dude, I crapped all over that show before it started. I'm like, why would you even make a show about this character? And then their first thing they put out this like 3-minute scene where Peacemaker goes into a diner and meets the rest of the team. And I'm like, this looks like it was shot on an iPhone. It feels super cheap. I don't know if you guys have been watching me long enough, but remember, I was crapping all over. I'm like, this is such a dumb idea. Who asked for a Peacemaker show? Blah, blah, blah. That was me. And then I'm like, this is the greatest DC television show ever. Like, I just couldn't believe how good it was. We'll see if they were able to stick the landing with this one. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, I think the new Superman TV spot was absolutely amazing. I just get more and more hyped for this movie. I love the flying scene, the aerial flip, and the harmonizing classic Williams theme. I'm seeing this movie day one for sure.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I am
Me
too.
too. And again, look, and everybody, including us, are nitpicking over the YouTube selfie cam wide angle lens GoPro shot from the front. But when we see him from behind, he's flying like that. I'm like, okay, this looks like the way I wanted it to look. I am so excited for this. I got all the faith in the world in James Gunn. Could the movie be bad? Absolutely, it could be. But,
However, if this shot is in the movie, to your point, and it's a fantastic movie, no one's going to care about this shot.
no,
They're
no
going
one's
to be
going to
like,
care about
there's
it.
that one weird shot, but it's an awesome movie.
It's literally 0.3 seconds.
Yeah.
It's literally 0.3 seconds. It's not going to matter.
To me, it's sort of like that shot that always gets me in the Batman, where he jumps off the police station and he's with he has the the flying squirrel thing, and it's very green screeny. But who cares? It's a great movie.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Matan says the comment that showrunner Dario Scartapane that Daredevil Born Again will have less navel gazing than the Netflix series has brought a red flag. I feel like he's dumbing down the show and not aiming for prestige TV standards.
Well, I mean, I think he probably sent that in before the show started.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have the exact same thoughts. It's the first thing that has worried me, right? It's like, because the part that makes me concerned is it sounds like, and I don't want to build an entire worldview around one statement, okay? Let's be clear about that. I'm just saying, it kind of sounds like to me, he doesn't get what made the original Daredevil series so great. And if you're trying to now say that this Daredevil series is a continuation of that one, you better understand what made it great. Now, again, it was one set of comments in one interview. And like Rob pointed out, the whole trailer kind of was like revolves around a navel gazing scene of Matt and Kingpin.
That's what kills me.
Sitting in the diner, talking. That's where the strength of Daredevil is.
Yeah.
And so maybe he does get it. And it's just
think-
a context, a comment we're taking a lot out of context, maybe. All right, what's next?
Okay. King Arsenal says, hey, John, Mel Gibson just interviewed on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he provided updates about his Passion of the Christ sequel titles, The Resurrection of the Christ. What's your opinion about this movie? Will it be better than the first? Well, we have no way of knowing.
Oh, who knows? Could be good, could be terrible. He hasn't directed a movie in like, how long?
Yeah, I got to look that up.
It's been a while. I mean, Hacksaw Ridge was
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
for sure.
I love that movie. Like, that movie is so good. I thought he did such a great job on that movie. I don't care.
Flight Risk, which is like...
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, how long it's been
And then
since...
Hacksaw Ridge was
Yeah.
the last, yeah.
Hacksaw Ridge has been a long time, and he did a great job on that movie. I have zero interest in Passion of the Christ or Resurrection of the Christ, whatever. To me, this is a pure, unadulterated money grab, which is okay, because all movies that get made are pure, unadulterated money grabs. It's a business. People make movies to make money.
Right.
At least the people who put up the money for movies to get made, they don't put up the money for movies to get made as a charity. They put up movies to get made and hoping to make a profit. And that's clearly what this one is too. All right, what's next?
Bright says, finally took your advice and watched Shrinking and binged it in 2 days.
Nice.
Might be my favorite performance by Harrison Ford. Was this enough for him to get nominated for his first Emmy? Winning is a long shot because of the Bear being a comedy, quote unquote.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't get nominated in previous years. He did get a Golden Globe nomination, I think, for it, which is meaningless. I really hope so, because I believe that Harrison Ford hasn't been this good in at least a decade. This is the best Harrison Ford has been in a long, long time. And it's simply one of the best television shows I've ever seen, Shrinking. Both funniest and emotional and moving and touching and charming. And again, just hilarious. So yeah, I love this show. All right, what's next?
Tron says, saw Flight Risk. And speaking of, these are the gems that our new Hollywood ambassador, Mel Gibson, is going to be delivering to save Hollywood. Then, oh boy, we're in trouble. A hilariously awful film, but hey, another #1 opening for Lionsgate at 12 million.
Now, again, oh God, is that what it opened to? 12 million?
Yeah.
I have not seen Flight Risk. Although, I remember they showed us a big preview, like a big long preview for it at CinemaCon, and I thought it looked good.
Oof, 26% on Rotten.
Oh my God. 26%. There.
That's
There's
what it looks like when you're flying at Mach 1.
Yes, that's what. And
That's what Superman should look like when he's flying.
That's something Mark Wahlberg will want to put on his new photo ID. 26%. All right. We'll say. Listen, all I can say is that I liked the preview. So yeah. Well, I'm not hearing great things about it, but we'll see. All right. What's next?
Superman says, people are already bitching and moaning about David's eyes in the new TV spot. James Gunn addresses this saying there is no CGI on his face. People's faces look different when you put a wide angle lens.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Reminds me of the Last of Us CGI, like when everyone was like, that CGI giraffe looked fake and it was real.
And it was a real, I still remember that so clearly when all these people, again, for those of you who didn't know about this, back in season 1 of The Last of Us, there was a scene with this giraffe, right? And like all these people like who are just hating on the show, like, oh, what a fake CGI looking giraffe. It's a real giraffe, guys. They actually brought in a giraffe, and that's actually a giraffe. Oh, that CGI looks so fake. But that's exactly what I was saying, right? It's like when you use those wide angle lens, go look at other people. Go look at on YouTube of people who do that kind of stuff. That's why I didn't like the creative choice to use the lens at all. I didn't like that choice. But that is one of the things that happens when you have that shot. And so, yeah, all these people say, oh, it's not even David Cornsweet. It's clearly CGI. No, it's actually him. It's just that's the weird way your face starts to look when you use one of those wide angle lenses so close to your face. And that's why I didn't like the creative choice. I still don't. Yeah. But we'll see how it works out in the movie.
All right,
what's next?
Forbidden says Rob and Chris are back together. The show is going to be tits. As for the Rey movie, shouldn't it might as well be called Episode X or
they might.
They could start a new 3 chapter.
It can be called Star Wars Episode 10 New Jedi Order. Yeah. They can do that. Or they may not. I don't know. Again, I'm going to go into this movie whenever it does come out, if it ever comes out. It's never coming out. But if it does, I'm going to go into it with a purely open mind. I just think trying to build a movie around the Rey character is a mistake. I like the character. I love Daisy Ridley as a performer. But Rey is the on-screen representation of one of the most divisive moments in Star Wars fandom history. To me, you might as well do a movie around Jar Jar Binks, because who represents the most divisive era ever in Star Wars history. I just, again, it's not a knock on the character. It's not a knock on the performer. I just don't think it's a good idea to try to build a big fan base around a Rey movie. When Rey was one of the big characters in a series of films that is really divisive to the fan base. I really think it should be doing something else. But again, when it comes out, I'll leave my baggage at the door. I'll go in and just give it a fair shot. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got me, not the father, Mari. Robert Meyer Burnett Productions presents Scripts in the Hood, coming to a theater near you. I all just being goofy. And then Javis says, hey, John, you say Dune 2 is your favorite movie in the last 10 years. With that being since only 2015, what would you say is your favorite movie prior to that? Or one of the big ones?
I might have to say, not all time, but just in the immediate bunch of years preceding that, probably King's Speech. King's Speech to me is basically a perfect movie. It's not an action film. It's not, some of the things I normally gravitate towards. Actually, I got to look up, when did the King's Speech come out? The King's Speech, that was 2010. So yeah, I'd say in the handful of years prior to that, I would probably say King's Speech. Jeffrey Rush, Colin Firth. Colin Firth won Best Actor that year for it. It's a brilliant movie. And I'm sure a lot of you guys haven't seen King's Speech. It's a lot of navel gazing, like a lot of just people in rooms talking. But to me, I was absolutely riveted. The entire thing, the performances are all absolutely top notch. It's a great movie. So yeah, I love that one. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says Uma Thurman joins the cast of Dexter Resurrection. Very excited considering how good Original Sin has been so far.
You know what? I still haven't started watching Original Sin. And you know what? Again, my wife Ann is on her way to the airport right now. She's heading out to the East Coast. So I got a few days here where I'm bacheloring it. I think this is going to be, I think I'm going to use this to get caught up on Original Sin. Because I keep hearing from you guys it's actually quite good. I really like the casting. I loved when they announced that Christian Slater was going to be a younger Harry.
Oh, man.
I'm like, that's perfect. So yeah, I think I'll get caught up on it in the next couple of days. All right, what's next?
Okay, I am Jax with a two-parter. Definitely a wait and see, but visually this thing looks aesthetically like Flash. But this weird wide lens, fisheye digital thing is off-putting, to me at least, or at least to me. That being said, all that matters with this Superman is story. As long as that is good, I'll take 8-bit suits.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It all comes down, is it good? And, Jonathan pointed out earlier, if the movie is great, and that's a big if, but if it's great, no one's going to be worrying about the wide angle lens thing.
Yeah.
I also doubt that this wide angle lensing is going to be used much in the movie. It's probably going to be used for one or two quick shots, and then I'm guessing it's going to be gone. I don't think he's going to do what Michael Bay did. Remember that Michael Bay movie Ambulance that was out a couple of years ago?
Yes.
I'm a Michael Bay defender.
Unfortunately, I remember that.
That movie was terrible, though. But the thing about Ambulance that always drove me nuts, it was that Michael Bay, you might as well have called the movie Ambulance. Michael Bay discovers drones. Because it felt like every 5 minutes, Michael Bay had to do this huge drone sequence. It's like, look, everybody, I've got a drone. I don't think James Gunn is going to do the same thing in Superman with that wide angle GoPro
I don't think it'll
lens.
be overused.
Now, I think it'll probably be in one or two shots, and that's about it. If every time he's flying, it has it, I'll admit right now that's probably going to be a little off-putting to me. But I don't think James Gunn's going to do that.
Also, I would say that 95% of his flight will never be looking at his face.
Yeah,
this is conveying something that's going on, but most of it's going to be from a side or from behind or whatever.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Taweed Razak says, so I binged The Day of the Jackal over the weekend, and I can't believe how good Redmayne was. He must be in consideration for the next Bond, but he might need to bulk up. Oh, for sure he'd have to bulk up.
Boy, man, I tell you, that show, I mean, it looked good to me. I was surprised how good it was. And Lashana Lynch was killer in his web, but it was definitely Eddie Redmayne's show. I mean, and it was way better. And listen, I'll tell you what, the ending, all of us with television shows, we become pretty good at maybe guessing where it's going to go. The ending of The Jackal surprised me. It really did. And Ed Main is going to get nominated. And yeah, listen, if you haven't seen, Shrinking, watch Shrinking first. But if you also haven't seen Day of the Jackal, which is on Peacock, so you probably haven't seen it because it's on Peacock. But I'm telling you, Day of the Jackal is worth a 1-month subscription to Peacock.
Sure.
If you want to churn, go churn. But it's really, I watched the whole series in about 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really good.
They've got some good movies too. You're right. If you're going to just hop onto to a month, maybe 2, there's some good movies that are in there, like Super Mario Brothers or whatever. If you miss that, it makes it worth
I'll tell you what. I think Peacock is the most underrated streamer right now. I don't think they're the best streamer.
No, but they have some good
but
stuff.
I think they might be the most underrated streamer. They have some really surprisingly good stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that they also have all of the NBC stuff on there as well is a benefit to me. So
I watched all Scrubs on there.
I think it's worth having. Listen, if you're not somebody who's got a rule that I can only have 2 or 3 streamers, I think having Peacock is one worth having in your belt.
Yeah.
I
cheap enough.
actually really kind of like it. All right, what's next?
I am Jax's follow-up on the Apple Vision comment. The future of cinema could be in VR. I missed Oppenheimer in IMAX, but was able to watch a 4K version on a digital IMAX screen with people in big screen VR. It's the filthy future.
Nah, it's not. You know what? Here's the thing. People have literally been saying that for over 10 years. I remember when I was still at Complex, we had an executive come in who was making a lot of VR stuff. And they're like, this is the view. This is the way people are going to watch movies in the next 2 to 3 years. This is people. It's 10 years later. No, it's not. It's never going to replace anything. That's why the Apple Vision Pro, they've stopped making them. That's not to say they're not going to make a 2 There'll probably be a Vision Pro 2, but like there've been such small demand for it. Nobody's buying them. It's, yeah, so again, for a decade now, people have been saying, this is how everybody's going to be watching the movies now. No, it's not. It's really not. Anyway. All right. What's next?
Swanson Burgundy. I'm curious, in an alternate world, had
The Last Jedi?
Yeah, The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker been well received with audiences and critics as The Force Awakens was, and there looked like there was a coherent plan. Do you think people would be frustrated with the current absence and delays of Star Wars movies?
Probably even more so.
Because you want to get your hands on it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I remember, like, even I was, when Bob Iger came out and said, we're going to slow down a little bit on Star Wars. We're going to take a beat. Most people were like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I don't think we envisioned 5 or 6 or 7 years until we got another movie, but it made it a little bit more palatable. I think if The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker had actually been good, then I think people would be even more impatient to get Star Wars back on the screen because it was good. We've been okay with a bit of a delay because it wasn't good. So we want them to regather, right? Get there, as Chris would say, poop in a group. But yeah, it's been a while. We still have no idea when the next real movie's coming out. I get it, Mandalorian's coming, but that's just taking the TV show and putting it on the screen. When are we going to get an actual next movie? Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Okay, final two. Anonymous. Hey, John, want to get your thoughts on Ulrich Thompson being cast as Sinestro in the Lantern series. The show is putting together a talented cast, easily my most anticipated DCU project. Also, Porna Jaganathan, I'm guessing, confirmed they start camera tests Tuesday. Sorry for butchering the name.
Yeah, I saw this report a couple of days ago. I didn't make it a story because honestly, I've never heard of the actor. And I looked him up on IMDb and I recognized a couple of things he was in, but I don't honestly remember him. So, and that's not a bad thing. Like, hopefully they just went out and regardless of his star status, they just found the person who best fits the role. And that's great, but we didn't do a story on it because I can't give an opinion as to how good or bad of a fit I think it is because I'm just not familiar with his work. But I am getting more and more excited for this Lantern series. And ever since one of our viewers wrote in a theory that maybe Guy Gardner gets killed, and like the Lantern series is about trying to figure out who killed Guy Gardner. I mean, that's actually pretty cool, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, hey, John, big fan. Was talking to my dad recently, who is a big Hanna-Barbera fan, and we had a question for you. How come there's never been a Johnny Quest movie, even an early 2000s bad one? Do you think there could be or ever be a movie adaptation?
I just so happen to be friends with somebody who I'm trying to figure out what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not. I think I'm allowed to say this. I happen to be friends with somebody who is actually a well-known Hollywood producer who is actually in the process of trying to get a Johnny Quest thing together.
Interesting.
And I do think we're going to get it. And I think we're probably going to get it sooner than you think. I don't know that. I don't know that for a fact for sure, just to be clear. But yeah, I think Johnny Quest is one of those older properties that if updated properly could be really good. So yeah, we'll see how that all goes. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to come on back tomorrow and join me, Jonathan, Chris, and Rob again. We'll look forward to seeing you there. I want to thank Jonathan.
See you guys tomorrow.
Big thanks to Chris and Rob, who have obviously took off after we were done all the topics. And again, big thank you to all you guys for being here and joining us and making us feel all special. That'll do it for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.